Oh my fuck. Are we really having to argue about eugenics in the year of our Lord 2020? I thought we were better than this. I thought, society is still a hellhole. We're all being steered into the lake of fucking fire. Climate change is gonna kill us in 50 years, but at least we know eugenics is bullshit. But no! No! I was wrong! I was wrong! We need to nip this shit in the bud! Again! Apparently! So for those of you who don't know, I'm sorry for having to bring this into your life, but evolutionary biologist and noted piece of shit Richard Dawkins said this shit on Twitter. Stare at it for a minute. Fucking... An evolutionary biologist thinks not only that evolution works, but like breeding cattle to produce more milk is the same thing as breeding humans to produce more IQ, except that's not exactly it, but we'll get to that. Fucking, like, just to start off, I'm not going to insult anyone's intelligence by presuming that they are not familiar with the Holocaust and the 14 million people that were brutally slaughtered as a result of that. I will, however, say, just to clarify this, that the Nazis were not scientists, they were mystics. They were trying to be fucking wizards. They thought they could use magic to turn the Jews and the Roma and the homosexuals into perfect Aryan supermen. That was the purpose of the Nazi experiments. To turn one kind of person into another kind of person with literal fucking magic. Any science that they did was entirely accidental. Alright, so moving on from that, let me look at my outline here for a minute. I had read an outline, there's so much of this bullshit to cover. Yeah. Okay, so the thing is, the idea of breeding defects out of human stock is simply fucking laughable. Like, just in a basic context, animals that are purpose-bred, like your racing horses or your feed chickens, for example, they have all kinds of problems. Pugs! They have all kinds of biological problems. Heart disease, liver failure, fucking circulatory issues, and as a result, they have drastically lowered lifespans. Right? And there's a reason for that. That's because evolution is a shockingly poor process for picking out desirable traits. It's almost entirely random with just tiny amounts of pressure. And duplicating that, but more and more, and in a hypothetically controlled scenario, is just going to yield more randomness. More or less. And, like, here's the thing. Even considering all that, that's not to say that eugenics absolutely, totally does not work. It's just that it doesn't work well. It works shockingly poorly. Like, the comparison that I've been using is that it's like making a sword out of bronze. Like, you can make a sword out of bronze, it can have a swordy shape, it can do swordy things, and it can even hold an edge for a little while, right? But why would you do that when there's fucking all kinds of perfectly good steel lying around? And that steel is 100 times better at being a sword than any amount of bronze is going to be. And the steel, in this metaphor, is modern medicine. Modern medical understandings. I think people have just become so accustomed to it that they don't realize how incredible modern medicine is. Like, modern medicine, if you get to a doctor fast enough, and the doctor is skillful enough, there is no remedy that cannot be alleviated or even, or in most cases, cured. There is no malady that cannot be treated. If you get shot in the face with a gun, a skillful doctor can pull that bullet out of you, put a bandage on your face, and send you on your way. If you lose most of your blood, a doctor can hook you up to an IV, have you stay in the hospital for a few days, and then just send you on your way. If your heart stops beating, a skillful doctor can make your heart start back up with their bare hands. I am not possessed of enough hyperbole to explain how incredible our medical science is nowadays. Calling it miraculous is to do it an insult, because the gods were capricious bastards. No god could ever cure smallpox. No god could ever cure cancer. And the thing is, medical science makes eugenics completely obsolete. You don't need to create a human stock who is resistant to smallpox when you can just create a vaccine for it. You don't need to create a human stock who is resistant to fucking liver cancer. If you can just take and cut out any cancer that a human being can get. I need to turn this. 2 pages of notes. There's so much shit to go through. And regarding eugenics, there are other more esoteric topics like biodiversity and bioethics and fucking environmental pressures that I, as a rube from Cornfield Land with an IQ of 63, am not qualified to talk about. So I won't. And even if I was, I wouldn't anyway, because that's not the fucking point. So we haven't really talked about the context of this comment, because I fucking hate eugenics! But there is a context to this, and it relates to this person named Andrew Sabsky. I think that's how you pronounce it, Andrew Sabsky. I'll put a name up here. Andrew Sabsky seems to believe that IQ is mostly genetic. And also, incidentally, that black people typically have lower IQs. Andrew Sabsky believes that you can solve the problem of poverty by forcibly sterilizing the poor. And Andrew Sabsky was just elected by Boris Johnson, not elected, just hired by Boris Johnson to advise him in matters of state. That's where this conversation about eugenics started. It didn't start with Dawkins. Dawkins chimed in. Dawkins said that eugenics thing, it's bad, but it works. And to be clear, what he's saying works is breeding poverty out of a population. An idea so shockingly absurd that I think it's the most wrong statement I've ever heard in my life. Like, it used to be, the most wrong thing I'd ever heard in my life used to be that Islam was genetic. And before that, it was that time that fucking, what's his name? The White House press secretary said that Hitler never used chemical weapons on a civilian population. But no, now, this claim that Dawkins and this other guy, Sabsky, are making, that you can simply use eugenics to solve poverty. As though there's a fucking poor gene. I can't. This is fucking... I do not have enough hyperbole to explain how wrong this is. Okay. Not a call out, just an example. Another person on YouTube, someone whom I have a lot of respect for, named Theory Plebe, posited this question about whether or not the ultra-rich, the 1%, were even people, or if they had transcended the limitations of humanity. Because evidently they consider mortality to be an obstacle that can be overcome. And what I said in the comments of Theory Fleeb's video is that, yes, they're still human because wealth is an entirely social construct. If everyone in the planet decided that money didn't exist anymore, that it was worthless, that we were just... that we had some other way of doing things, I wouldn't... If everybody was communist and just grabbed things that they needed, for example, then nothing would really change. I mean, in a biological sense. Money is not something that needs to exist. It exists because we will it into existence. And therefore, these people, these wealthy people, have not transcended humanity. They've just run up the score on a game, so to speak. The opposite also applies. People who are impoverished are not genetically malfeasant. They're just poor. They have a low score in the game of life. And you don't fix that by sterilizing them? Oh, the absurdity is shocking. I'm literally... I feel like I'm going to have an aneurysm trying to think about this. Why do people buy into... That's not true. I understand why people buy into this, actually. Sort of. So, I went to a very not good school. And it wasn't very good for a lot of reasons. But one of the things is that we had classroom sizes of like 40 students, right? Most of my class was packed into one class at a time. And that means that there wasn't a lot of time to address specific things. When we got, I remember this specifically, I thought about this, we didn't cover World War II a whole lot. But when we did, it was just glossed over how the Nazis were wrong in their eugenics ideas. It was just assumed. And I think that that's an experience that a lot of people have. I think that a lot of people might be of the mind, a lot of people who are skeptical, in great big fucking air quotes, skeptical, are of the mind that people just presume that eugenics is bad, because they were never exposed to what the ideas were that underpin eugenics, and why those ideas are wrong. I know this because I've studied it, and I studied it because I spent the better part of a decade being told that I didn't deserve to be born. That's why this is a bugbear for me, because this is something I've had to personally deal with. And seeing it being spread, and seeing these ideas being supported, not just by assholes online, but by heads of state. It makes me mad. It makes me mad. I don't think I have anything more to say about that. I'm all said out. Thank fuck. So yeah, regular links are in the description of the video. My Curious Cat, if you want to send me anonymous questions or abuse. People send me abuse a lot. I don't mind. You will find me to be unharassable. I am the rocks of eternity fall upon me and be broken. My email is in the description if you think that there's a lefty project that I could contribute to. The link to my Twitter is in the description. On my Twitter, I have been trying to explain to people this thing that I made the video about. I'm sorry this took so long to get out. I spent most of the day being busy. I also have a coffee account in the description of the video. If you feel like this has been educational or informative in any way, please do feel free to send me a couple of dollars. I'm not going to stop making these videos if I don't get money. This is all a labor of love. I'm talking about this because it's important to me. This topic especially. But I could really use some money right now. It's not even for me. There are people in my family who are having really bad medical emergencies, and we're not 100% sure that insurance is going to cover the cost of all of the things that they need to have taken care of. So any amount of money that you could spare would be very, very much appreciated. Now more than any time in the past. So yeah. I meant to have a scripted video up today, a proper scripted video up today, but I haven't had the time to sit down and record it. So I don't know. I don't have a lot of time right now, but I'm still gonna try and make videos. So yeah. Until we get there, take care of yourselves, alright?